Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar about luxury hoteliers, how to create a bespoke, customizable food and beverage program. My name is Daniele Foti. I am the marketing vice president for Lavazza within the North American business, and it is a great pleasure for me to be here with you today. First of all, I would like to thank ILHA for letting us taking part to this, since to collaborate with such a valuable organization within the hotel industry is for sure something important for us. Since 1895, spanning 4 different generations, Lavazza family has perfecting the art of creating a great coffee. They have put all their passion into creating a brand which nowadays worldwide is synonymous with excellence, Italian craftsmanship, and innovation. At Lavazza, we have a mission. We want to guarantee the best possible coffee experience in all its forms with the perfect product at the right time of the day. In pursuing our founders' missions, then, to work alongside with the hotel industry today represents a key element for us. Within the food service market, hotel operators have in common with Lavazza the strong need to be effectively present within consumer journeys throughout the whole day. From the early morning with breakfast until the evening with their last drinks, both hotel operators and Lavazza have the common objective of engaging consumers with relevant and valuable experiences. For Lavazza, then, a strong collaboration with all our hotel clients is key to be effective in reaching this goal. This is the reason why we are extremely glad to partner with ILHA and to give our support today in hosting this webinar. With no further hesitation now, I'm letting the floor to Alex Sunskind from Nolan Hotel School at Cornell University, who will moderate this session for us. Hope you guys will enjoy it. Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Alex Susskind, and I'm the Senior Director of Academic Programs at the Nolan School of Hotel Administration at Cornell University. And I'd like to welcome you also to the International Luxury Hotel Association's webinar entitled Luxury Hoteliers, Creating a Bespoke, Customizable F&B Program. And today's webinar is sponsored by Lavazza, and so thank you for that. I'd like to introduce our panelists and speakers today. First, we have Jesse Carr, and he is the Director of Food and Beverage at Virgin Hotels in New Orleans. Andreas Londono is the General Manager of Langdon Hall Country House Hotel and Spa. And then Susie Park is the Executive Vice President of Asset Management for JLL. She focuses on trends and consumer shift. So without further ado, I'd like to get started with our discussion. And the first question I'm going to send out to Andreas. So the question for you is, what are the first steps in creating a personalized F&B program that aligns with the hotel brand's identity?
Alex, good afternoon. Thank you. And thank you very much for including me in this webinar. I'm very humbled and appreciate it. F&B, one of the key areas in any hotel. And a couple of things that come to mind very quickly. Obviously, you've got to make sure that your F&B operation is aligned with your hotel's mission, vision, and values. Very important. This is why we do what we do. Couple of other key things. Well, you got to know your brand. You got to know exactly who your guests are. If you don't know your guests and what their expectations and preferences are, you really can't design any sort of product or service. One of the best places I've worked at had a great marketing plan. And with a marketing plan, you know exactly where you're going. You know what your north is and where you're headed and how you're going to get there. And then it comes down to the actual basics. So the concept, we talked about menu, that determines styles of service. You got to look at your actual environment, so ambience, lighting, entertainment, uniforms, training, etc. And ultimately, F&B, as in hospitality or many other services, is a people business. So you need to know, again, like I said, your guests, but you also need to look at your team, at your people, have the right people in the right places in the right jobs. Servers are the ones that take care of the guests. It's not the manager, but the manager sets up the serving team to make sure that that experience is delivered. Your chefs, the what is the quality that they look for? What is it that emphasizes with the cuisine that they want to put out, the ingredients and all of that. So, and then after that, just feedback, your guest feedback, your staff feedback, that you continue to reevaluate over and over again, in order to make sure that you're actually serving and providing the service that your guests want to buy and are coming to you for. Like, it's the experience at the end of the day.
Personalization is definitely an important issue. And so I was hoping also that, Jesse, you could weigh in on some of the things that that you think are important, in addition to what Andreas has just shared with us about what you're doing at Virgin.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I worked before in independent restaurants for a while. And the interesting thing about a hotel versus F&B programs in like single standing buildings is that we have the opportunity from the moment they book their reservation and so many points of contact to create personalization. We're able to get information and fish to that information and really, curate their experience when they get into the building. We have the ability of capturing anniversaries and birthdays and special events without having to do a big lift on it. And that little bit of being able to acknowledge people in those moments is like, it's huge for us and huge for them as well. It creates these like lasting memories and return guests. And, I think he's also on the money when you have to make sure you're also staying within brand and aligning with the rest of the hotel. We also try to challenge our staff to be more creative and to think more outside the box so that they're able to, create these more memorable experiences and really personalize them. Getting information and making sure, we help curate their entire experience while they're here. We have a list of, places to go to and people to see. So we're able to expand that relationship even farther from outside of our doors.
Oh, that's great. And, I can just share a personal experience. I was at a very nice restaurant over the weekend, and they actually paid attention to my profile in Resi. And they basically, my wife has a dairy allergy, and she had ordered a dish that actually had dairy in it, and it wasn't very clear from the menu. And they came back and they said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know that we're probably going to have to modify this because of your wife's dairy allergy." I was like, "Wow!" Like that was incredible, and that connects to the next. That's personalization, but that connects to the next part, which is creating memorable experiences. So you personalize things, but the idea is to make it memorable so that they remember what you did for them and they crave that. So can you maybe speak to that a little bit, Jesse, as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's within that same realm, right? So we're trying to do what we can through service. I mean, our first priority always is to take care of our guests. I think Forbes standard says there's two things the guest should do, which is show up and pay, right? So everything else is up to us. I think that the big difference, there's service and hospitality. Service should never be felt. Hospitality should be always felt. So, making sure that those two things are always happening operationally. And then the next step is going a little beyond that, like making sure we're saying their name over and over again. That way we've connected with them, making sure they know our name, making sure managers are touching the tables for quality checks, that they're also making sure those things are happening. And then making sure the menus are curated properly and they really speak to the environment, not just the hotel, but the city they're within. I mean, here in New Orleans, we have the advantage of having this really beautiful food scene and, the history behind it. So we're able to really use that to our advantage in all spaces, and just making sure the guest feels that, that they've come here, to escape usually. So if we're able to take them out of their day-to-day lives and put them into a new environment that they can enjoy, then we've done our job, I think.
That's great. Thank you, Jesse. And so I'd like to move on to another question, and this one's for Susie. What role do partners play in enhancing the food and beverage experience, and how can hotels effectively collaborate with them?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So I think establishing key relationships with the right partners absolutely plays a crucial role in enhancing the F&B experience for our hotel guests by bringing specialized expertise, innovative concepts, and also sometimes even a dedicated customer base. Effective collaboration can also lead to enriched dining offerings, increased guest satisfaction, and a competitive edge in the market. And some key strategies that hotels can use to collaborate effectively includes identifying synergies by choosing a partner whose brand and values align with your hotel's identity. And this ensures that you're always keeping your guests top of mind and creates a cohesive dining experience while maximizing the complementary strengths of both parties. Being open and flexible to innovative ideas by trying new concepts and menu items that your partner suggests can result in unique dining experiences that attracts new guests. Collaborating on joint marketing campaigns to highlight your unique F&B offerings could include co-branded promotions, social media campaigns, and special events that really leverage both brands' networks, and then establishing open lines of communication from the onset of the partnership by clearly outlining mutual goals and expectations to avoid any misunderstandings, and having regular check-ins really ensures consistent quality and alignment as the partnership progresses. And finally, I think establishing clear performance metrics to track the success of the partnership is really essential. Reviewing these metrics can help both parties understand what's working and where there might be room for more improvement.
Well, yeah, that's great. And the fact that you mentioned communication and engagement as a way, it's really important. That partners and operators talk to one another so that they can achieve their goals. So that's great. Thank you. So Jesse, I'm going to pop back to you. And I want to talk a little bit about sustainability. And so how can hotels implement sustainable F&B practices in their operations without compromising quality or guest satisfaction? Basically, just recognizing that sustainability is important, but the things that we just talked about, creating a personalized, memorable experience, also is important. And so, how do you merge those two elements together?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you don't have to compromise any of the quality of what you do by being sustainable. We use, water filtration systems. We use low energy appliances. We use biodegradable to-go silverware and packaging. Along with our bags, we decided to be a no linen hotel for the F&B outlets, so no tablecloths for any of our outlets. And we basically, we also when designing the hotel on the front line of it, we decided to do a lot of searching and use our designer to find reusable furniture that they were able to repurpose. Again, all these little things help with our storytelling as well. We're able to really build off of that and convey that to the guests that, hey, look, we're doing these things for you and for the environment. We shop locally, we use local fish, all these things that really matter to us and to a lot of our guests as well. Virgin really stood on the platform to say that we're going to be an eco-friendly, sustainable hotel. It's actually a big piece of what we do there. Our HVAC system is all pushed with using low energy. We run our pools with usually salt water, which has a lower impact chemically on the environment.
Well, those all sound very interesting. And Andreas, maybe you can weigh in on what you're doing to also address sustainability in the big picture of the service experience that you're creating.
Absolutely. One of the things we're very fortunate is we have our own garden here at the property. We live on 75 acres, and we have two beautiful gardens that we fully utilize to serve our kitchen. So it's really, talk about hyper local. Our our head gardener and our chef get together. The whole team gets together and they plan out seasonally each menu depending on what we're able to get from the garden. Obviously, we're up in Canada, we get a winter. So they plan things for basically 3 seasons, and then we're starting to do some canning and things like that. Um, yeah, when you look at and you have a conversation with the chef about sustainability, then he turns to obviously the garden conversation, but also where he sources his products from, and he is keen on talking about the farmer and the story. What is it really that the farmer is doing to help with sustainability? Does he really care about those practices and the product and where it goes? Um, and so those are the key things that we're doing. Obviously, in terms of we're also in a state that we have our own septic system. We're starting to look, our ownership starting to look into um, um, reusables like solar panels and things like that. So there's a lot to do. Depending on where you are, also you have some more accessibility to certain things. So I think a lot of hotels are always looking at what they can do in order to help, because we do have to make sure that we leave our mark. And that those are things that we're doing here.
Excellent. And there's some sustainability things that are virtually invisible to the guest. And so sometimes you actually have to remind them that you're doing these kinds of things. I think that's kind of where that comes from. And you tapped into something also that I wanted to talk a little bit more about, and that's sourcing local ingredients and seasonal ingredients and how that works. But let's have Susie weigh in, and then you can respond after that, Andreas.
Yeah, thanks. Sourcing local and seasonal ingredients really can elevate a hotel's culinary offerings. It provides fresher, more flavorful dishes while also supporting local economies and also promoting sustainability. And some key things to keep in mind include, understanding the seasonality of ingredients and the seasonal cycle of your region is really key. But this also requires meticulous and flexible menu planning by your chefs to align your offerings with the availability of fresh local produce and protein to create dishes that actually highlight those seasonal ingredients. And this could include daily specials or a rotating seasonal menu that showcases these freshest ingredients. Operationally, this could also lead to some challenges, as sourcing local ingredients can be a little bit more complex than working with large-scale distributors that might have the product on hand all year round. You'll need to consider the frequency, reliability of supply deliveries, storage requirements, and also the potential need to have multiple suppliers on hand to ensure a consistent supply of ingredients. But this can be established by building strong, reliable relationships with local farmers, growers, and artists and producers. And having regular communication and site visits can really help ensure that you're receiving consistent, high quality ingredients, and can also provide insight into their farming practices and supply capacities. Especially with the increasing focus on sustainability and traceability, it's essential that local suppliers practice sustainable farming methods, which includes responsible water use, soil management, and avoidance of harmful pesticides. And our guests are increasingly interested in understanding where their food is coming from. And being able to tell that story behind the ingredients can really enhance the dining experience, which can be achieved by understanding your guest preferences and educating them on the benefits of local seasonal ingredients and highlighting these elements in your menu through the use of your marketing efforts.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that connects actually to something that I wanted to ask our operators about. And that's kind of how you build that into the maybe smaller, more curated, marketable menus, right? So using local ingredients, using things that you can't get pretty much anywhere else except at the locale that you're in. So maybe let's move to Jesse, and then Andreas, you can weigh in after that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that small menus have tons of advantage, right? So like you're able to cross utilize things better within them. It doesn't confuse the guests. I think the days of our, Cheesecake Factory menus or hopefully in the past where you have multiple pages, it just becomes too much and too overwhelming. And grant me, like I was from New York, so like having those diners where I can kind of get, any kind of food I wanted to at 2 a.m. was great. But they're not very curated, right? It's very like I go there for one thing specifically. But like, it one, I think it helps the chefs. They're able to create these, better menus where they can really focus on what the theme of it is. So you're not kind of all over the place. And again, you're able to be efficient with it by maybe using more of that one ingredient. Like we try to work very tightly with our food and our beverage. So sometimes we'll use some of the discarded pieces from the culinary side to work into our beverage side. We run fermenting programs where we like ferment stems and stuff like that to help create like different syrups and cordials, and maybe use part of it for garnish as well.
Well, that's great. And you promote that to your guests so that they know that you're doing that, or is that another one of those invisible things?
No, we definitely talk about it. I mean, I think it's really interesting, and I think that our guests really feed into it. There's that fine line of over educating your guest, where you kind of have to give them the story more than anything else, and I think they appreciate that a lot.
Excellent. Thank you. Then Andreas?
Yeah, very interesting. So again, I go back to the garden because this is when you actually see the creativity of the teams that you work with in full swing. They start with a meeting. Like I said, you have our head grounds person and the chefs, and they're talking about what's coming up, what do you want to do, what do you want to feature in the menu. This is even before testing, and so they start to plan out things. And then as the garden is being designed, then you see the chefs going out to the garden, seeing what the progress is, how are things coming up. And it's really unique. Then you go back and they're doing the tastings or they're doing the preparations and how they're incorporating. So first of all, quality is paramount. And you start by good quality ingredients, and then you also treat them right. Um, like Jesse was saying, we don't have very, very long menus. Our menus are not humongous. So very good quality ingredients, treated really very, very well. And then they start playing in the kitchen, right? And they start doing all the tests. And it's just magical how it comes up. They talk about, we had this mushroom, can we have that one? Yes, we can grow that one as well. We are actually doing that on site. And then also when we can't supply everything from the garden here, it's also not effective and feasible. But then they go out to the local farmers. And like I was saying, they visit the farms, they look at the product there, and then they come back. And, 3 months later or 2 months later, that's when the menu is presented. And it's a really true testament of collaboration. Then when guests come and they see the menu and they taste it, but they can also get a garden tour. So they go back and like I was saying before, it's about that experience, and you really want to try to touch all of their senses. We pride ourselves here at Langdon Hall that you can actually touch every part of the experience. And guests really enjoy that. We do probably 15, 16 people every garden tour, and you should see our gardeners just talking about the product. And then when guests come back to the dining room and they saw where that was grown, and now they see it on their plate, or they see it in a cocktail, like Jesse said, the opportunities are just endless to make sure that we have that experience that our guests can enjoy.
Well, yeah, that's excellent. That's an excellent set of examples, and so that's really what you're describing as a whole hyper local approach to products. And I just a quick question for both of the operators is this hyper local approach. How does that connect to your brand identity? Is that what your guests are seeking, or is it tangential to that?
Yeah, I won't speak for anyone else, but for here in New Orleans, it's it's completely what people come here for. We are a food destination, and like if we're serving okra that's from California, then we've missed the buck somewhere. If we're not served, if we're sipping tilapia instead of drum, we're just not doing it right. So people come here for those things. They want the local seasoning, they want the local ingredients. And we're lucky enough that we have a year-round growing season. I'm not lucky enough to have a garden on property. I wish I did. But we get as close to that as possible. We have the the farmers are the people who deliver the food to us some days. We have a company out here called JV Foods who literally just pack their truck full of whatever the farm that day, and they'll go around to each location and like open the back of the truck up, and you just got to go in and pick what you want to get out of there. And we use those ingredients as we can.
Excellent. And Andreas, the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've said, and like Jesse just mentioned, you got to listen to your guests and what they're telling you. And Langdon Hall, because of the type of property it is, I mean, we're 60 rooms, we're a small boutique hotel. Actually, sometimes people have joked that we are a restaurant with rooms. So this is certainly what our owners want to hear, but it does come across sometimes like that. And, it's a pride to mention that your F&B operation is very, very strong. And then guests, one of the things we've done this year a lot is try to diversify our offerings a little bit. We are Five Diamond restaurant in Canada. And sometimes a lot of people relate that to very expensive, but we've done a lot of experiences where, just come out. We recently opened the shop, which our sommeliers put together a great selection of all of the wines in our repertoire, and started offering them at all different levels. And guests started loving that. Then we do a really good collaboration and talk about partnerships where we have, I'll talk specifically about one option, our summer barbecue series. All of that is collaboration with either local chefs or Michelin star restaurants or a group of people. We even have a couple of suppliers that come in and do a station. And so we've done different events at different price points with different offerings. And it's all because our guest tells us, you know what, we love the fine dining. We all do ultra fine dining. We love a little bit more casual approach. We love just sitting by the pool and having a burger and some really nice drinks. So if you don't listen to your guests on what they're telling you, and then hear to what the experience is, but also the story that they're telling. So at the end of the day, I think these experiences are very tied together with storytelling.
Excellent. Excellent. So what I'd like to do now that we've laid out kind of the framework for all the really cool and innovative things that you're doing, is to talk about how do we know that it's working? So basically, and this question will be for you, Susie, how can hotels measure the success of these personalized programs, and what are some of the criteria that the industry values to make these things happen?
Yeah, as a former director of finance in my past life, I would have said that profitability is obviously the only measure of success. But in my role as an asset manager, it's really clear that profitability can only be achieved by understanding a variety of metrics, both qualitative and quantitative. And some of these metrics include, guest satisfaction scores through the use of surveys and feedback forms. Post-dining and post-stay surveys really can provide a lot of detailed feedback on their F&B experience, allowing us to calculate metrics like guest satisfaction index or even net promoter scores. And online reviews are also a really great way of monitoring real-time insight into the guest perception of our F&B offerings, utilizing platforms such as TripAdvisor, Yelp, and Google reviews. And positive mentions, high ratings are clear indicators of success. But there are times, however, when guests don't leave reviews or opt in to take any surveys, and this is when our employee feedback is really crucial. Our frontline staff are often the first people to notice guest reactions, and, having regular debriefs with them can really reveal trends and identify areas for improvement. I think menu performance is also another really great way of tracking success. Understanding your revenue and sales metrics, such as your average check, your frequency of repeat business, and even upsell rates. That tells you whether or not the personalized offerings that you are putting out there are attractive and driving higher sales. And if the rate of return guests is high, this provides a strong indication of success and satisfaction, and that It's a sign that they value the personalized experiences. And by identifying which menu items are the most popular and also on the other end, what doesn't sell, it can help you really understand what your guest preferences are and determine how frequently guests want unique offerings versus standard menu items. And this can also help a business determine, the need for innovation and also could help in operational efficiency. With labor being the highest cost in any operation, how quickly a dish can be executed, how many components it has, how long does it take for a new chef to learn a new item versus executing these tried and true items while still maintaining high quality standards could determine the overall man hours needed. And by creating unique offerings, utilizing existing ingredients or items that might have a shorter shelf life, you also have an opportunity to reduce waste and also better control your inventory. And on the industry success side, that can be measured by how quickly we're able to adapt and innovate in response to guest feedback. And it really shows that the hotel is dynamic and guest centric and listening to their customers. Additionally, with travelers, focusing a lot more on sustainability, programs that reduce waste, use local and seasonal ingredients, and support environmentally friendly practices really reflects well on the hotel and resonates with those eco-conscious guests. And programs that support local producers and highlight local culinary traditions can also have a really positive impact on the community and create an emotional tie that enriches the overall dining experience.
Well, thank you for that detailed the description of the things that you need to pay attention to. It's multifaceted, and operators take a lot of that for granted. But it's very clear that again, you have to have a very the broad approach to understanding the dynamics and the effects and all the things that you're doing. So thank you for that. And so I wanted to follow up and maybe address the challenges, the challenges that operators face to create a bespoke F&B program, something that that matters to everybody, that builds the brand, and that basically allows you to to be industry leaders in the things that you're doing. I guess we can start with Andreas, and obviously Jesse, we're going to want to hear from you on that as well. So Andreas.
Yeah, thank you. I think Susie touched on one aspect or a couple of aspects, but are related to, you look at the balance that you have to bring, whether it's your guest, your team, financially, so profits, and obviously the brand. My grandfather used to say, take care of your staff. They take care of your guests. Your guests take care of the company takes care of itself. And so when in the realm of all those four categories, there's always big challenges. Finding the right staff. We talked about the right people do the right jobs. Nowadays, you can find a lot of students wanting to come in and work, but then they have to go back to school. So now you're retraining over and over again. If you don't find a balance within, tenured staff, professional career servers or teams, then you're constantly having to retrain, and your standards and your execution can fall by the wayside. Even coming up with a great program and you can't get it out to market. Marketing today, very, I think with social media and everything, and we're seeing it in our market, a lot of everybody's doing it. So there's an inundation of marketing, and how do you share that with guests? So are you being relevant? Are you being noticed? Are you doing enough to be noticed? You could put on a great program, nobody knows about it. Nobody comes to the hotel or to the restaurant to enjoy it. Then the people that come, word of mouth, you've got to make sure, like Susie said, so many people won't leave a review. So are you making sure that your team is following up and, noticing that, that body language, maybe they mentioned something. Many guests don't want to leave a review. Some do, and it's great. Feedback is a gift. And if you don't look at it, then you won't improve. We talked about sourcing products. I think even through the pandemic, a lot of people were finding difficulty finding great products, right? So there's a lot of different challenges. And again, you always try to look at the balance of like Susie very well said, at the end of the day, the metrics and what they tell you, right? And how do you find those balance within those four legs of the chair?
Thank you. And I love the fact that you've highlighted the training part of the equation, the human side of the equation, and that's a challenge for for anyone. Jesse, could you also opine on your views on what some of the challenges are in creating a bespoke program, F&B program?
Yeah, I mean, I think the talent pool is a big one. You know, it's super hard these days. I was lucky enough to be bartending back in the day when it was, the kind of the golden age of the cocktail. So like all these like, sort of like new bespoke things were coming about. There were a ton of people who really wanted to be involved in it. We have found since COVID that the talent pool has shrunk a lot. Either people left the business, they've gone to different ranks, they took new paths, whatever it may be. The cure for it is education. It's really creating a house in an environment where you like really project education and project that you want to take people up. I've always said that if I can take a dishwasher and make them a bartender, they're probably going to be the best bartender in the building because they're going to have such gratitude for it. The other big thing is supply chain issues. I now have to make sure if I get the right glassware for something, I need to order 20 cases of it to keep and store somewhere under a stair just to make sure I have it. Because if not, then I'm going to run out and it's not going to be able to get to me for 6 months. Budgets are always a constraint. We do live and die by them in hotels and restaurants, and our margins are so small. We need to make sure that we're making those margins happen. And then the other big thing, especially where I'm at, is saturation. There's just a ton of places that have opened up in the last 10 years. And, you have to make sure you don't get lost in there. Like you don't become yesterday's news. So it's constantly being on the forefront of, being innovative and getting in people's faces to make sure they know you're there, and then making sure you're getting that return business in the back end. So doing all the right things hospitality wise while they're in the building.
That's fantastic. So as we get ready to wrap up, the last question that I want to ask connects all of this to technology, and that's coming from someone who's having trouble operating the mute button on this. But how do you? And I would like to do a round robin here, and I guess I'll start with Susie. So how can technology support personalization and sustainability in a hotel's F&B program? What are your insights there regarding technology?
Yeah, it's funny because I've been having a lot of conversations about this more recently, and I think technology is great, right? I think it really helps the guest experience, but you can't just rely on that. This is where it kind of goes hand in hand with the personable aspect or the people aspect. You need to leverage the technology that is existing and available and pull the data out of there in order for guests or for servers and managers and people on the F&B side to really understand like what works and what doesn't. And I mean, there's companies that are doing some really cool things with technology where they're literally tracking, guest footsteps, the amount of, people coming in by minute, by hour, the smells that are, in the air. How does that actually drive revenue? And even, the decibel of the sound in the restaurant, if it's a lot louder, are people more willing to buy more stuff, or are they willing, or do they just want to leave? So I think there's a lot of different factors. And I think that, if you use technology the right way and don't assume that technology is just going to replace a person, I think it can actually really enhance the operation versus, I think there's a lot of fear where people think that technology just going to eliminate bodies and eliminate positions. And I really think if you use it the right way, it can actually be very complementary.
Thank you. Jesse?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I've had the same conversation before too. I think that the big thing for me with technology is if there's technology that gives the manager the ability to not be behind a computer more and more, and have them more on the guest facing side of their job, then I think that's a huge advantage for us. Is I think that while I talked before about the, kind of the labor pool being smaller and smaller, we have to rely on our managers to make sure they're quality checking and helping guide service. They can't do that when they're behind a desk trying to figure out the schedule or looking into P&Ls or product mixes. If you when you we use technology in a way of like them giving us those answers. We get reports sent to us without having to having to have someone behind a desk create it for us and then send it to me. So those are really the advantages I see to it, and being able to have technology support us on the operational side, so we can create more personalization on the hospitality side.
Excellent. And again, there are different uses of technology. There's the staff and operational side of it, and then there's the guest side of it as well. That are we offering guests the opportunity to engage with technology along with us for different reasons? And then I'll leave the last word to Andreas on the important issue of technology.
Well, I think technology, like Susie and Jesse said, it's today's world, and you have to embrace it, but you also have to know how to use it appropriately. It shouldn't be it should be part of the journey. When technology doesn't work, it could be a major hindrance to the experience of the guest. If a guest can't book, or if they book but something happened throughout that journey, or if they're coming and they can't pay because your technology doesn't work to pay. Like Susie said, ambience. If the ambience is damaged because of your technology, then it doesn't work and it ruins the experience. So it should be part of the journey. It should be part of the journey and this is what we've all talked about, looking at data, extrapolating, guest information and what they're telling you. It's like we had the same conversation, the three of us, but I was having a chat with someone and we were talking about a restaurant and how they started. They wanted a very casual ambience. They were all in fine dining before. I was the manager and the chef, and they opened their own place, and they wanted to be a little bit more casual. And as they started to look at the data and the feedback from the guests, they eventually ended up evolving into fine dining and tasting menus. So if you listen to your guests, if you do, Susie talked a little bit about the menu engineering. What's actually selling, what is not? What should we actually put on the menu, right? If you analyze that through technology and it provides you the perfect balance for your menu, and you've used it correctly. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, if your technology doesn't work and you cannot get back to hospitality, get back to your guests and be worried about your guests and what experience they're actually having at the restaurant, then you're not using technology properly. It speeds things up for sure. It helps you measure things like Susie was mentioning, provides you all of the data, and you can look at trends. But ultimately, that's just a tool and a resource and part of the journey, and it shouldn't be the other way around.
I want to thank you. And I just want to add on top of that, I said I was going to give you the last word, but I look at technology as a layer in the service experience, that you create a service experience. And it's really important that you layer that in, that it doesn't become the focal point of anything. It's basically just a part of what we do. And that way, everyone can learn how technology helps them experience things better or deliver things better, or both. And that's the way I look at it. And it's unavoidable. And the more that you do, the better off you'll be in the long run. But it is not, as all of you basically said this, people don't come to your hotel or to your restaurant for technology. They come to be served and to have experiences that matter. And that's kind of what we were talking about today. So I'm going to thank you. So to close, I really do want to thank everybody for joining the International Luxury Hotel Association's webinar series. And I also want to thank Lavazza for sponsoring the webinar and also keeping us fully caffeinated. If you found the webinar to be of value, please do share the recording. Recordings of past webinars can be found on the ILHA's website under events. So thank you very much for your time, and take care.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.